All right, I guess today I wanted to talk about. Oh shit. Um, Today I kind of wanted to talk about the way the races are going in California. Um, Pretty much the way I see it, the California dream has kind of gone, especially for like the vast majority of people in California. But there are certain life fuels, ascensions kind of going on at the same time. Um, for the most part, I think in the last 30 years, 20 years, uh, whites, yeah, white. I mean, the heyday for whites here was like the 50s. No, not. I would say even like the 70s was the last heyday, 60s. Because here the middle class, the blue collar class was able to still work blue collar jobs, and even the blacks had the air jobs from the aviation industry were really great for them, and it was aerospace in the Los Angeles area. It was really nice and it was really affordable. Um, yeah, especially for the black community, and but since then, let's be honest, we let in a whole bunch of immigrants, migrants, illegal migrants, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, and have taken over pretty much a lot of the blue collar white neighborhoods that were that were once just kind of for them, or even black neighborhoods as well. Um, and it's whether you agree with that or disagree, they've been having their kind of culture for like a while that was kind of really bad economically. Just gangs, drugs, but also they were discriminated against a little bit. So yeah, but I think in the last 20 years, there's been like this sort of like ascension, not sexually, not sexually for like brown Hispanic men and all that, but economically. There's no more. Um, there's no the graduation. There's no more gang graduation. There's no more like. It's not we're not limiting ourselves just to the warehouses, to being worked like slaves, dogs at the warehouses. The whole oh, you go to college, the whole you go to that's not a question anymore. They're starting to become like a pathway even for uh, um, Latinos, brown guys. Um, so obviously that's gonna make college even harder for everyone, because if you think about it, in the 80s or 90s, a lot of browns, or even blacks and browns, didn't think about college. There's a whole gang thing. So when the whites and Asians were applying, they're really, for the most part, just competing with themselves. The thing is, now you're competing with a lot of brown Latinos, and they have that whole story of being the first immigrant, and then that gets their essays get in. Um, it makes this better sob story, whatever you want to call it. Um, and this is, I want to digress into a point here, that the no, I'm not going to digress anymore because this could go all day. But so yeah, so that's that part. There's been a huge economic ascension, and I think it's going to go, the economic ascension for Latinos is going to be 2010 to 2035, or it's going to be around this decade, 2020s. Because if you think about it, the economic ascension for Asians happened like right as they stepped off the boat. Whenever they come, because the first generation is usually just, when they come here, they're usually just lost. They stick to themselves, and they really got nothing else, so they have to stick to themselves. I think Latinos, we've been through that whole Reagan wave, which I'm probably part of. So there's no other way but just to be like a regular American, work hard, or get your degree and all that. So yeah, Now, what are we dominating right now? I guess in a way. Sadly, one's life field is not a rope field, right? So the blue collar, the trades, Latinos kind of got a lot on the trades in California, and obviously the whites are have moved out because it's just like you're trying to compete with a lot of these guys that are sometimes doing shortcuts, or maybe they know how to do it better, or they just work harder and sweat harder. Who knows? So yeah, one's life fuel is not a rope fuel. But yeah, we've kind of like dominated like the trades and and that sort. We've dominated ways in that you don't have to go to college, because the thing about Latinos is, I don't know, not me. I'm a nerd. Like, I take tests. I love math. It just always came to me. Reading, I don't like, and writing, but I'm lazy. But also my IQ for reading is not that great. But math, it's always been like up there. Um, but Latinos just in general, the test, when they take tests, or they just perform badly. One part is, who knows, like their IQ, but another part is like they're just lazy. They literally, I've sometimes they walk out the tests. They don't care for it. It's not valued. A guy who has a degree in Latino culture is not deemed as like praise. They don't get praised. Like, I've been to like my Asian friends, and I told them I had a master's, and I almost a PhD and a bachelor from this, and they start praising me like the day I walk in. Like, they're like, "Oh, you did this? Wow!" Like all this stuff. But in the in the Latino culture, the praise just isn't there. Praise is more given to like other attributes, um, your social attributes, drinking attributes. So yeah. Anyway, so I think because of college debt going higher, it's really been a dumb investment on many whites and Asians that have taken that standard route of, oh, going to college, I'll get a job locked up for me. Meanwhile, the Latino, or in many cases I know, just worked from the age of 18, saved up, stayed at home, and bought a house, and bought a house just recently. I know some of them, and they just they work from 18. I don't know whether it's a real estate agent, um, trucking, whatever, and they saved. And Latinos don't really move out that much as whites, and Asians actually don't. Asians actually don't move that much out too. Depends though. And they saved, and then and yeah, and they use like kind of similar to like Asian attributes. They use family to help out each other. Family network system to help out each other. Whether it's like three people giving in a down payment, it's really hard to compete. I mean, if you're white and you're lone wolf, it's really hard to compete. I mean, they're using like three family members, four, five, whatever, to pay a down payment on the house. And the network they have for jobs too. Because I have tenants. Because I have a property and I have tenants, and they easily find jobs. I don't in the warehouse for working, or they do a little forklift. Um, they hire their own, and I know people can say that's messed up for the blue collar. Like, they only hire their own, and that's just, yeah, that's just how it is. Every I think that every group is tribal in a way. Whether it's the WASPs or the blacks, people are just tribal, and yeah, so it's kind of like economic life fuel for them, almost in a way, to stay here. And then you got to put in the whole inheritance, because there's been a lot of Latinos that lived here in the past. So a lot of them, not a lot of them, but some of them are a good amount are inheriting homes. So any white or Asian lone wolf that comes here, this is your competition. But obviously, the white and Asian lone wolves, you have to have a minimum of at least has to be like 100K income on the father, and then like a 80K, like a 70 and 80, 90K. Not even, it doesn't have to be 90, maybe like 70, 80K on the mother side. Double income parents to compete in this market in California, and even that's like the baseline too. So. But I do like, look. There's on all. I'm looking at it on all fronts. So in the Hispanic side, yeah, there's been economic ascension in the past 10 years, and it will continue. I think as people like me become parents, nerds or semi nerds, um, yeah, if you have the math IQ, use it. Use it to your best advantage. Get a tech job, any tech job you can that is in demand. Save up that money. Use your kind of familial attributes to stay at home. Save that money. Invest. You can go crazy or not go crazy. Depends on your philosophy, on your lifestyle. If depends on how you age and all that stuff. So, just to my fellow Latinos out there, yeah, if you have that IQ, use it. I used it and I'm still using it, and get paid for that. Because the future's analytical. And then the other side is like warehouse, almost slave kind of jobs. It's kind of messed up. I know machine learning is going to be one part of the sector, but that's kind of more like in 10 years or so, maybe more down there. But for the most part, a lot of it's analytical. So the Asians, I think, are still going to dominate the UCs. And the UCs technically are still a meritocracy. But, everyone has their doubts about that. I think Asians are still going to dominate. Look, I'd rather have a meritocracy than like legacy colleges. Obviously, there is small benefits towards like legacy colleges, because if you think about it, the meritocracies is the state, and the state can fund whatever the state wants to fund, whatever the state wants to teach your children, and in a way, it is kind of an indoctrination, because there's lobby groups, and they tell you the way to teach your daughters, your sons in these liberal colleges, and maybe a private college might be different, but that's another topic for another video. But overall, just for the most part, I support like people that are smart. I want them to be valued more. And I would trust a smart guy to build a bridge for me than a guy not as smart for the most part. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I see Asians still dominating tech and the UCs and college and all that. I do think they will start going into different fields though. I think the whole STEM route, I think they're trying to get into finance, into other fields. They'll have more diversity as the whole STEM immigrant route becomes less of a path for them as they become more creative. I think Hispanics aren't even on that stage yet. Like we just have to still get on that first path, that first chapter. So I think we're still going to start to do that more. I still see Hispanics more so dominating Cal States, which is kind of what they're doing now. And then whites, I think whites are just saying F the system. A lot of them are saying F the system, like this is just not worth it. Because the system really UCs, you need a lot of analytical IQ. And the whites, not all of them, but a good portion of them don't have the analytical IQ. For a lot of these engineering jobs, etc. So not all of them, but a good portion of them are saying F the system. We're going to trades, welding, you name it. So I think they're gonna start plugging more of their efforts in there. Because the thing about whites that I like is that they're very they like to see the return on investment more. They like to see things from a return on investment standpoint, which is every group has their good points, and that's the thing I like about the whites. They think like, is it even worth it to go? As opposed to seeing like a path of any sort, So that's a strong point about the white mind. The white mind's like has a very like a question. Is it even, yeah, they question. So that they're gonna start going to the trades more. I know Hispanics a lot of them are in the trades, but I think whites are gonna go into trades a little more, or just move out, which is what they're doing. They're saying it's not worth the cost here. And I see blacks keep leaving. They still have a little parts of the region, but it's just the black culture here it's been away, and it's just fading away. I see them more going towards the southeast. They're both going to that south portion where they're originally from. And I like that. I like that they can claim a little part and have and be like a little proud of where they are and create from there, media or things like that. Because it is kind of hard here just with the numbers. And for Asian, it's like a life fuel as well. There's some parts that have actually become less Hispanic and more Asian. Obviously, the majority is vastly Hispanic. If you look at the racial data points, on the map. But they have been able to claim some more parts, and yeah, like I think it's life fuel for them because other parts, the north, I know the Northeast treats them badly from what I've heard, but over some parts of the Northeast, but at least here they have some enclaves going on, and look, like I said, I think people are just tribal. People want to be around. They don't want to get like comments or get little subtle stares here and there. They want to feel like at home, and if they can have like a little tribal enclave to go to, if they need it, I think it's fine. I think the whites really are unleashed when it comes to leaving to another state, because Hispanics and Asians, like, we leave to another state, we're almost maybe second class citizens. We don't know network, especially if we like things about our culture or blacks. But whites can literally go anywhere and don't get that feeling anywhere. So, which is why a lot of whites like to leave. And they, if anything, I think with the future, with the liberal and almost every city becoming liberal, they're gonna find their little enclaves. There's now the future is gonna be white enclaves, especially in the Midwest, in the South. They're gonna try to keep that as whites feeling comfortable around other whites, and which is perfectly fine. And sometimes it's just like a Democratic or Republican want to feel comfortable about around other Republicans. So those are my economic prospects I see. Like I said, I know it's doomsday for a lot of white cells here, the living costs, but just know that there are some like life fuel kind of mentalities coming out in the Hispanic world, especially with the way we were so poor in the past, and even in the black. I don't know about the black world, but I think black home ownership is really down the drain now. So that's a little sad, but yeah, but yeah. So they're probably hitting very bottoms when it comes to black home ownership. Asians, I think steady as she goes. It seems with tech and their salaries from there. But yeah, I think they've claimed more land. They've claimed more of a culture here than before. And they're integrating. They integrate with whites pretty well. If you look at some cities, it's like half Asian, half white. So take that as you will. Much more HAPAs probably coming in the future. Yeah, yeah. And then, like I said, for whites, I think a lot of just thinking elsewhere. And if they can't, they'll just move. It's just they don't have any claim. They don't have any need to be here, culture wise, or so. But another interesting thing about the whites is that in the past, like many counties used to be Republican, and since Trump, it's really kind of put a bad paintbrush against Republicans. So it's like taboo against some white families for one of the families to be Republican, and I've heard like they literally have like clashes, and they don't even meet on holidays anymore, because of how divided they are on politically. They just take it to another level when it comes to the schisms mentally. So I think, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I just think there's they're gonna have their schisms within their family or their groups. But no, what I was gonna say was that over here in Cali, like it's gonna be very the regions have changed, and so the things that used to be Democratic, now places that used to be Republican are now Democratic. So Republican whites are gonna feel really isolated in the future, in the California region, which is gonna be interesting. Because I don't know if they're probably gonna make little enclaves, go inland or move out, because the liberal bashing, white liberals bashing white Republicans is really real, and I don't know how. It's like almost like they want to hunt them down and shame them for being white Republican. I do think there will be a conservative uprising, but like I said, I don't know if I said it before, but I think other people have said it before, but it's not going to come from a Trump kind of guy riling up the South. It has to come from a black guy or a Hispanic guy or a brown guy, um, even a brown girl, like someone that you wouldn't expect to be a conservative. Um, and but yeah, I think Trump was like the last stand of like white mania. Oh, I'm just gonna link this to something else, but I'll stop it there. But anyways, those are just my economic racial prospects of California. Um, yeah, the strongest survive, and sometimes sell the stock when you think it should be sold. Sometimes buy it, buy the dip. Who knows about the economic progression that goes in the state? So yeah, now.